There we go.
There we go. We are going to let people start filing in, but we're going to make that one quick because we don't have much time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're behind today.
Let's
just do it.
Let's dive right
Let's just go right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Victory Monday. We got Victory Monday today. It is Victory Monday.
For who? For who?
For me.
Oh, for you.
Yeah.
Of course, it's Victory Monday
this
today.
Show's all about you.
This is my first Victory Monday of the NFL season, so obviously I'm bringing a little more energy.
Okay.
And we are recording live from the Flipping Made Easy Studios over in Matawan, New Jersey.
That's right.
As of Friday, we are the Flipping Made Easy Studios. Not the Jimmy Palumbo studio, like you talk about on your show.
I think it should be the Flipping Made Easy Jimmy Palumbo Chop Sports Studios.
So anyway,
it rolls off the tongue.
I don't have to do any work because I just got to say the name of the studio.
You say your name of your
like
podcast 38 times in the outset of your show.
I don't talk about Jimmy Palumbo that much when I'm talking about the Jimmy Palumbo show.
It is Victory Monday nonetheless. Monday, what's today? This 27th, September 27th. The Packers coming off of a fucking amazing win last night.
Yes, indeed.
Giants are still abysmal. The Jets, oh my goodness.
We'll
get into a little bit of that, but we got some Yankee baseball on the docket. A little clean sweep of the Red Sox, but it's obviously it's all football today.
Well, we have to, first of all, what I'm with the Yankees, first of all, as some of my fans know, I have been promoting Giancarlo for the last 2 months, saying he's not the problem. He's fine. He's batting .275, hitting bombs. But he literally, the last 3 weeks, I mean, he's the guy.
He is the guy.
You can make an argument. He's been carrying the Yankees in a 3-week period, a month period, we'll say, argument's sake, 3 weeks, we'll say. He's been carrying the Yankees as good as anybody has. Your Reggies, your Jeters, your Marietta.
There was the one year that A-Rod had that postseason run. That's the only argument I can make of recent memory.
Listen, I'm not exactly with the stats, but like he's at least tied with. I mean, this guy is carrying. I mean, he's got an attitude, but not a jerk off attitude. He's got an attitude more of when he hits the home runs, he throws the bat at his teammates. You have to say like, enough with this. And the balls that are going out, they're not cheap home runs.
Since the Mets series where they lost that one game, I think the Yankees have gone on a nice little run.
There's no doubt. I mean,
where Stanton was rounding the bases. They did end up losing that game with Lindor hit his 3 home runs. But since that game, the Yankees have been playing well.
To me, the Saturday night game was the ultimate FU kind of game. Sunday's game, I thought, was a microcosm of something else I've been talking about all year, is bad baseball. I mean, dropping fly balls, both sides.
Well, you're talking about Sunday's game?
Sunday's game was a bad baseball game.
I didn't watch Sunday's game because I was
watching your game.
Locked up in a tight one.
Sunday's game had like drop fly balls in the same inning, Gallo and LeMahieu. The other guy in Red Sox dropped a foul ball. That was like, that's a little league play. You got to make that. Pitchers were completely.
Were you fixing something?
Look at that. We're live moving the camera.
AJ is no joke out here producing the show.
It was just a very bad. It was exciting for the Yankees, but as far as baseball goes, that was a lousy game. Poor play, poor pitching. The joke about Gary Sanchez, the wild pitch, you can't blame him. But like Gary Sanchez has the ability, the ball just doesn't go like 10 feet behind him. When Gary Sanchez is involved in a wild pitch, the ball goes like you actually go. The guy from second can score. The guy from second.
I think Sanchez is probably done unless he has some crazy postseason run, which I doubt. But
it's all about Stanton. Stanton pitched well. I mean, hit well.
We got our baseball fix.
The Yankees want to use. It's still not over. They got
it's definitely not over.
Games to go.
3 games up on the second wild card spot, though. I think Toronto did end up losing. Two. Toronto did win yesterday. I think Toronto ended up losing yesterday, so it's 3.
Right. We'll have to double check.
But anyway, the Yankees are a game up on the Red Sox.
I think if they
a very nice position going into the final 6 games.
I think
better position than
much better
than
shot
expected a week ago.
Blue Jays won yesterday against the Twins.
All right. Anyway, nobody gives a shit, AJ. You act like I care about the Blue Jays.
No, I think you do.
I actually did just ask.
You're not the number one Blue Jays fan in the world.
Listen, here's what happens. You're like the kid who gets like laid and then he can't talk to anybody all week. You're so excited. Your Packers won a game.
It's my first victory Monday, and I'm doing well in fantasy. I only placed one bet yesterday, like a disciplined bettor, and it won.
And by the way, this is my quick fantasy thing. You mocked me about my fantasy choices. The main reason why I'm not 3-0 is because Tua got hurt in the first
what's
quarter.
Your record? You're 2-1?
I'm 3-0. Well, I got like a 50, 60 point lead going into tonight's game.
You just said the main reason why you're not.
No, what I'm trying to tell you is I would have won them all, except for my quarterback got hurt 4 minutes into the first quarter. But other than that, my selections are fine.
Yeah.
Via the ESPN cheap quick pick.
I've been having a lot of issues.
Oh my
with
God,
ESPN.
you use those people?
By the way,
Jesus
I picked up the quarterback I chose was Daniel Jones,
Ooh.
only because he was like the first one on the list.
Yeah,
I didn't have time.
Again, listening to ESPN, but it was a good matchup against the Falcons. It just didn't play out that way.
We'll talk about that later.
I guess we could it's a good segue into the Blake Martinez injury. Do you know anything about that? Is that serious?
Yeah, so Blake Martinez tore his ACL, so he's going to be out for the entire season. That's a huge loss for the Giants, who defense looks lost out there, quite frankly, in some of these games. During yesterday, they held the ground most of the game, but in that fourth quarter, I mean, they folded. They folded really, really badly, and it ultimately cost the Giants the win, but there's more to talk about that in the game later, though. Some other injuries that we need to talk about are A.J. Brown. He has a hamstring injury that could be for a decent amount of weeks. Quentin Nelson hurt his ankle, so he's going to be out for at least 3 or 4 weeks. And Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton have hamstring injuries as well. The Giants, they're hurting right now. Jimmy, how do you feel about all these injuries?
Okay, in my defense of the Giants, they stink. They just stink. In my defense of the Giants, though, like, outside of Aaron Rodgers or Brady, those two guys, literally, and Mahomes, will say, how well would any quarterback do when both your starting receivers get hurt during the game? That's very difficult for let's say we want to call Daniel Jones an average quarterback. An average quarterback, not a Hall of Famer, loses his both wide receivers during a game. Odds are you're not going to score that much, and the Giants did, and they blew it. That being said, the Giant defense, I mean, 2 minutes to go, like it wasn't like key play, dragged his foot out of bounds, questionable call. I'm going to use the word waltz downfield. They waltzed downfield. It was the most anticlimactic, ba-da-ba, ba-da-bing, over there, boom. The clock, perfect clock, man. Of course, the Giants had all their timeouts were gone in the third quarter. They got down, 1 second, kick, good night. There was no drama. Like, kick is up and in. It was a chip shot. Like, there was no drama to that game.
AJ should have pulled up the Giants graphic for this one. We're talking about the injuries. Jimmy's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna air it out now.
That's my thing. I think the Giants stink. I think Wellington Mara is right to be pissed.
But I agree.
I was high on Judge. I'm not anymore.
Speaking of being high, did you see Lyle Collins?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot to this story, so I don't want to cast stones and actually call him like he was actually high. But I'll let AJ kind of lead in here.
Okay,
we're transitioning off of the injuries now.
So Lyle Collins, he recently got suspended for a violation of the drug substance policy with the NFL. I believe it was something along the lines of I thought we had thought it was steroids at first, but now when it comes to news that's coming out, he appealed the case, but in his appeal, the evidence came out that Lyle Collins was bribing the drug collector or offered a bribe. It was turned down. And because of that, that's why Lyle Collins' appeal not only brought him from
they got it was supposed to get reduced, but the arbiter actually ruled like, no, you're getting the full 5 again.
That's great.
Now, here's why it's a unique situation, because apparently it wasn't because he failed a drug test or he had dirty urine or blood. I don't even know how they test in the NFL.
Jesus Christ.
It was because he missed the drug test. So he was he was absent multiple different occasions.
Because he didn't go the 30 days without.
One of them was like someone passed away. He was at a funeral. And then like 2 months later, they said the same thing. So it was 2 separate occasions. And I could be wrong. I don't have the facts on this. I'm sure Dave does, resident Moral Victory Dave out in Dallas. Shout out to Dave. Dave is watching right now, and he is in Dallas right now. I don't know if Big Dave is in Big
So
D.
Big D is in Big D.
Big D loves Big D in Big D.
That's awesome.
So-
What is it? I do have to interrupt this thing real quick because I think this is funny. So Dave, he posted a story the other night and he's like, getting ready for Big D tonight or whatever the hell. I'm like, brother, can't just post on your story you're getting ready for Big D. The hell is that about?
That's great. But no, I Dave is commenting in the comments. He
should.
says one was for a funeral and the other one was for a surgery. So if you had surgery, I think that should kind of give you an exemption. But I'm curious to know how that conversation went with the collector and being like, look, I'm not going to be there. I'll give you 10 grand, did not say a word or just to, or he's like, you know, I'm not going to be there. And if I was there, I was going to fail for weed anyway. There's got to be some more to it than just the surgery and the funeral because he's offering money.
The best part of this show for me right now discussing this, because I'm older than you guys, don't really know who this guy is, don't know what team he plays for, and who cares? He's a jerk off. There's rules in the NFL. Now listen,
I agree with you.
No, listen to me. There's rules in the NFL. Now you want to change the rules, move around, fine with the pot stuff.
I think
but like there's rules. So like you get a list of rules and it says you got to be here at a certain time. You can't do this, you can't do that.
I'm all
he's
about
just violating
I
him.
agree with what you're saying.
Enough already.
I agree with what you're saying, and he's
So
probably
this
just
guy-
getting the suspension. But at the same time, as a fan of the way he's going about things, he is now a cult hero amongst a certain sect of
So because he's
of
trying to
sports
push,
fans.
he's
because
pushing
he's
it.
bucking the system a little bit, and he actually had the balls. It's like one of those
Okay.
things where it's like this
Now,
is very meme worthy.
And he's definitely like first team best player in the league, no doubt.
No. He's not the best player in the league, but he's a starting left tackle for the right tackle for the Cowboys. He's a solid player.
All I gotta say is otherwise, and
An
Lyle
offensive
Collins.
lineman?
When this guy was getting drafted, he was supposed to be a first rounder. All of a sudden, a murder case came up with him somewhat being involved, and his value dropped. This guy seems like a sketchy character.
Because Dave's
to me.
not here, we're moving
I don't
on to
tr-
the next story. We're
I don't
talking about
trust
an
him.
offensive tackle, the drug guy, he's a jerk off.
The reason why
Nobody
I
cares
think it's
about
an
this
interesting
guy.
story is because of the way he went about trying to bribe the collector.
Okay.
I think that's legendary stuff right there.
Some
That goes
lineman,
down in
some
lore.
lineman in the NFL is trying to buck the system.
Oh yeah.
We are moving on from this guy. Nobody cares.
Jimmy.
Jimmy doesn't realize that nobody.
If he was on the Giants, I wouldn't care.
Listen, Jimmy. People love drugs and they love football. There we go.
I
We
think
got two of them.
that we cover a lot of loves there.
Yeah.
Football and drugs. That's like one of the most popular things.
Those are
No, but
literally
it's
the two
it's
crutches.
not like it's Aaron Rodgers or Brady. Oh my God, how like the Cowboys
agree.
don't have any. I can't even.
I agree. All right. Well, in more news that nobody probably cares about right now,
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard. No one knows the time frame from his on his return from the ACL injury.
Right.
So
Now,
Kawhi
I know
Leonard.
who he is.
Kawhi Leonard.
Now is he better in proportion to Lyle Collins?
Yes, but it's basketball season.
So,
I mean,
but,
it's
like,
not
so
exactly
that's-
basketball
I
season
know, but
yet,
still,
so
we can
nobody
discuss.
cares.
He's
Yet.
got an ACL. He's got to come back, and he may not make it for the beginning of the season. That's an ACL. Every ACL injury that's gone on in the last 10 years, you could put Barkley's name there. Any player, it's always, you never really know. They say a year, but sometimes it's 11 months. Sometimes it's 13, 14. And that little gap sometimes makes you miss the beginning of the season.
Yeah, well,
He's a
Kawhi
great
Leonard
player.
didn't have a full complete tear. I don't think. I think it was just a partial tear.
Uh-huh.
I always root for guys to come back from injuries. It sucks when guys. get
Nobody
hurt.
gives a shit about the Clippers just yet. Anyway, let's
No,
relax. If we're
let's-
gonna talk basketball, we'll talk Knicks.
Wow. Okay, so you just shat on basically every topic that we have on the
Knicks are in the
docket
news.
so
They're
far.
starting.
I
up.
like the Lyle Collins topic. I don't think that Jimmy's on point with that one. I think
Wow.
that's an interesting topic. I would like to talk a lot more about it.
Okay.
And another reason why I wanted to talk so much about it is because I feel like we should hammer the Cowboys talk on the day Dave isn't here
Right.
while he's watching.
I
So-
didn't even know.
So
he
you
played
didn't
for
even
the
pick
Cowboys.
up on that. But yeah, like Dave
No.
is sitting there freaking out because he can't
I
chime
think
in.
Dave would actually agree with me.
But we do have Dave calling in, obviously. He wasn't going to let us
I
talk.
just don't think this guy's like. It's not affect. Does it affect the spread that he's not in the game? Does it like? Are you going like, man? I wish we had Collins in there. If we had
Yes,
Collins
yes.
in
If
there.
you're playing in a football game, you want your starting right tackle, I think. So yes. But moving on.
I don't think.
Let's get to the meat and potatoes.
The
of
meat
this
and potatoes
goddamn
of the
show.
episode
All right.
here.
Me getting aggravated over a guy is a jerk off. All right.
All right, so we got AJ. There we go. Pull up the Packers and drop down that ticker because we don't need that anymore.
You don't want the ticker.
We do not need it. But yeah, Packers I guess you could say it's a come from behind win. It's not really a come from behind win. That was a very frustrating, hard game for me to watch. A lot of penalties in this one. A lot of bullshit penalties in the second half that I think both teams got away with some things, but there was about 10 pass interference calls in that game where every single time there was a ball thrown down the field, there was a flag, and it was guaranteed.
Not to get off the topic of the actual game, but the NFL game, do you really think, because I've been saying this for a couple, 2-3 years now, the average fan, I don't know, maybe the young kids of America don't, the amount of flags and penalties during an NFL game, it really hurts the product.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way. I know they got the concussion laws they're worried about, but like,
and
every time I watch a game,
there was one play in the game yesterday where there was a clear-cut violation of whatever targeting, protect, all that shit that they're trying to enforce now, which is why you see a flag on every play. And Devontae Adams almost got killed, literally, on the field. His eyes are rolling in the back of his head. Surprisingly, he came back into the game, but he definitely got lit up on that.
To me, if I was in charge of the NFL, I'm like, okay, we got to protect everyone's head because of probably a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit, and we'll all be watching lacrosse in 30 years from now. So tell you what, like, we're just not going to call many holding penalties because we got to watch get near the quarterback's head or near the receiver targeting, all that stuff, because you watch the game and flag. I really think it affects the game.
You're right.
It's or maybe it's just part of the game now.
It is part of the game.
So in other words, it's like, is the receiver running a good pattern, and did he get the flag? And how good is he selling?
It's definitely always been part of the game, but I think what you have now is there's a lot more accountability because there's cameras everywhere. So if you do have a bad call, the social media the next day it blows up. So there's so many people up in arms that the NFL is like, oh shit, like we have to figure this out. We have to get it right. I think more importantly is getting it right. I understand a lot of the stoppages, but even with all the stoppages and all the strenuating with the
getting it right to me,
they're not even getting it right half the time anyway. So
but to me, getting it right is where his feet in. Did the ball cross the
plane?
Not did a receiver going back and hands out like this, looking back for the ball.
Getting to watch something in slow motion that these guys have to watch in real time with NFL game speed is a little unfair to the refs, but the refs, they do have to do a better job. So either way, but back to the game.
Back to the game.
Aaron Rodgers pretty much
beast.
Didn't throw an incomplete pass. That wasn't a flag for pass interference. You're not beating them when they play like that, because even down to the wire, when you think you have them beat, it's 37 seconds to go. And this is already legendary memes because there's like 4 Packer fans that took pictures in the stadium last night as the 49er fans are celebrating, and they're just sitting there with that grin on their face like they're celebrating, but they don't realize they left way too much time on the clock.
You just can't. I probably this is where I think Rodgers is even better than Brady. If you're a head coach, if you're an assistant coach in the NFL, no matter what's going on, unless of course you score on a crazy play, you just can't give the ball back to Aaron Rodgers.
Now, do you agree with me in these situations where it's like, okay, you know that the Packers will be looking for a sideline throw because there's 37 seconds, they have no timeout, so they're like, protect the sidelines.
Right.
You know what my approach would be as a coach, defensive coach in this situation? Play straight up and cover them.
Right.
Right.
I know, because it's like
with the obviously they want to get to the sideline, but you can't give up a chunk of 25 yards, 2 plays in a row because you're protecting the sideline.
Well, one of the things I hate about the NFL now, and I guess there's nothing we do, it's just human leg. I'm sounding like an old man now, but years ago, like now,
back in my day.
But don't you think the kickers now are just? I think they should move the goalposts in. The kickers now, it's like nothing against Rodgers, it's great, but like a 52-yarder is, my opinion now, chip shot.
It's not a chip shot.
It really is.
It's
is it over
not.
70%?
52-yarder? I think a 52-yarder for a long time has been over 70%.
I say they got to bring it. It's like, it's so unfair. The defense can't touch anybody. And I know Aaron Rodgers is the greatest at it, but like, don't you guys watch the games? And it's easy.
So the fix is let's change that. Let's make it harder on the kicker. I think we should maybe make a little changes to the way the offenses are run, and in terms of being allowed to play a little more strict defense on the outside.
You can't do that though. There's concussion issues.
Understood.
Nobody's
but
belting each
let's
other.
just bump and run a little bit more, like that 5 yard no contact whatsoever bullshit.
Well,
That's
stuff like
why
that.
you see the league the way it is.
Listen, what's the big deal? Moving the goalpost in a foot on each side. You got to kick this one through. It makes it'll make you get to in football now. Once you get to the 35-yard line, the game's over. And you get it to 25, that's 2 25-yard passes.
I just don't see that as being such a big enough issue.
There was a lot of games yesterday. It was too easy for the Giants to lose a game, too easy for the Niners to lose a game, too easy for Detroit to. In other words, like there's something going. The kickers.
You're not
40-yarder
realizing that there's probably been a game-winning field goal. In 1970, there was probably 7 game-winning field goals as time expired. No different.
Not 52
always,
yards.
Always been the same.
Not 52 yards. The kickers now are better.
Because you want to know why? Because they're
Kickers
signing
better.
guys and they're paying them a couple million a year to be the kicker. You're not going to have George Blanda playing 11 positions, and he's also happens to be the best kicker on the team. I'm not going
back. I'm just saying you don't agree that it's a little too easy for.
Do you agree with that we spent more time talking about moving the field goal goalpost in than we spent on Lyle Collins and his drug suspension?
Because that's something I think is relative. And we're moving on. All
I
right,
was about to say, Jesus Christ, we are moving on, people.
Well, why don't you say something?
Well, I mean, I don't want to be a little interrupted, right? I will. I got to get this show going. I got to get this goddamn show going. Okay, the Bills.
Too easy.
The Bills, the Washington football team, the Bills trounced them 43-21. Is there any avail for that Washington football team defense, or are they that pissed? Chris, I'll bring it over to you.
I hope so, because I picked them to win 12 games this year. They're clearly not going to win 12 games this year. They might not win 3 games this year playing the way they're playing. Heineke, he's an athlete, but he's not a great quarterback. I really don't have much else to say about this. The Bills, I'll say this. The Bills might be the team to beat in the AFC right now, even though the Chiefs, it's only 1-2, it's week 3, but Buffalo, they're looking legit. They lost to Pittsburgh in a throwaway game, but they've put up 35.
I know, and I completely agree with what you're saying, because in comparison to the Chiefs, they have the offensive firepower, and not only that, they have the defense. The Chiefs cannot stop a nosebleed. We see it week after week. Justin Herbert was picking that man apart after struggling for 2 weeks straight. I mean, I don't know. Just like Chiefs defense really is going to be a liability.
I have Jimmy's list of games that he doesn't give a shit about, and this is on there.
So you know what came over on the ticker just now on my Apple Watch? 4 teams in the NFC East. 2 have factually come in as stink: Redskins and the Giants. We still don't know about the Eagles and the Cowboys. Redskins stink and the Giants stink. We're moving on. They got smoked.
Okay, buddy. We are moving on to yes. I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to say to that, Bob.
Last year they snuck in the playoffs because the Eagle coach decided to put a little league quarterback in with in the second half. What's your next game?
Yeah. All right. So the next game is going to be the Browns versus the Bears. Guys, Justin Fields got murdered yesterday.
Yeah,
9 sacks.
There's a story in this game. Justin Fields had, I think, well, not Justin Fields. The Bears.
I'm going to pull up the stats.
The Bears as a whole had 1 net passing yard. I think Justin Fields had 78 passing yards, and they got sacked for 77 yards and lost. So as a team,
it was to
1
me,
yard.
That was the poster boy of when you don't have a good line and playing a decent team, and you got a rookie quarterback. It can set you back.
4.5 sacks for Myles Garrett. I said it's not a single game record. What is it? 7 sacks in a single game by Derek Thomas.
I think the other storyline in here, though, I know they made the playoffs last year, but the bottom line is the Browns were lousy for just a very long time. And now you could actually say 3 games in and 16 games, 19, 20, whatever, 25 games
They
in.
got a nice little sample size where they've won some football games.
The Browns are good now. The Browns are good. And I think it's I don't hate the Browns. I have no skin in the game there, even emotionally, except I don't like OBJ. But the Browns are pretty good, and they feasted on a Bears team with a bad line and a rookie
Now, this is
quarterback.
one of those situations where a lot of people are talking where Nick Foles should have been starting, and the Bears are just starting Justin Fields to appease their fan base, which I don't agree with that. I think that he gives them a better chance to win than Nick Foles. It's not like Nick Foles would have went out there and done better, but there is a shred of you don't want to see the guy that you just invested a lot of money into a lot of draft capital into because they made a bunch of trades to get this guy. They pretty much mortgaged their future on him, on Justin Fields. You don't want to see him back there and getting sacked 15 times or 10 times in the game.
You can make the argument, guys, like years ago, Troy Aikman took a beating for 2 years.
But there's only one way to find
Eli
this out.
took a
exactly.
beating. So
I'm not saying that. I'm saying what the Bears did was right. Justin Fields might give them a better chance to win than even Andy Dalton, but not a big enough chance as to where they would start Fields over Dalton and sacrifice his future. And when I say sacrifice his future, I mean like risk potentially getting him hurt before he's ready to really turn that corner. All Justin right. Fields is the guy going forward in
I would
Chicago.
love to me, it's an economic thing. You give a guy millions of dollars, you got to play him. The other thing is I would love to someday have a quarterback coach or offensive coordinator on and have that discussion. I know they'll probably say, well, it depends on the player and all that, but it really is an interesting thing.
And it really, really does, though. It really does depend on the player. Now, if Justin Fields was playing against a different team, maybe like the Browns defensive front is arguably top 3 in the NFL. So it's not like they're going up against, the Falcons. If he had an easier draw in his first start, then maybe you would be singing a different tune. And 1 week of football isn't enough.
Well, I will tell you this. If the Giants play the Bears and the Giants are up by 2 with a minute to go, Justin Fields will waltz downfield and win the game.
Yeah, probably right on that.
Let's roll over to one of the most exciting games of the day, Ravens versus the Lions. The Ravens win that one with one of the most exciting game-winning field goals.
Bunch of lucky,
and what was it?
Bunch of lucky son of a bitches.
66-yarder.
What? That was no goddamn chip shot and nothing. No,
that wasn't a chip shot.
And imagine if they just moved. If they were like, let's move the field goal goalpost back 5 yards to take that potential game-winning field goal away from the people.
A 66-yarder. That's different than a 52-yarder.
And to your point, a record that stood for 3-4 decades was a field goal kicking record that broke yesterday. So I think it kind of weakens your argument.
No, it actually makes it stronger.
No, it does not.
Make it a 66. That's news. The 52-yarder to win the game. That's no longer news.
The point that I'm making,
and by the way,
it
would have been good from
if 59. Field goal kickers were so great, and everybody was so great. If they're so great now, and it's like, oh, you know what? It's too easy for the kickers now. How did that record last for 40 years? Moving on.
You got it.
But it's been going. It's not a 40-year record though. It's been broken little by little. It's like
no.
Guys, for all your kicking needs, make sure to watch All About the Kicker with Jimmy Palumbo and Chris Gucci on the Trap Sports Network.
I do got something to say about this Lions.
Yes, let's please hear it.
I am officially, because every year when the Giants suck, I usually take on another team that I just want to. I am officially a Lions fan, and here's why. First of all, that city's been taking a beating for years now.
Eons.
The Lions have stunk. They got rid of their quarterback. He's winning now. And that place was like rocking. And the Lions played, I think the Lions have played pretty good. I think the Lions are better than the Giants. And that was a heartbreaking loss for the Lions. And two things are going to happen. Either the Lions are going to win like 3 in a row now from that, or they're 1-15 again.
The Lions aren't winning 3 in a row for the next 5 years.
I'm just saying, you can't say that's NFL.
I mean,
5 years. I know. What I'm saying is that was a tough loss.
I wish that I had it right now to look up the amount of times the Lions have won 3 straight in the last 3 decades.
What I'm trying to tell you
is one.
Because the Lions have been bad for a long time. Yeah. But I'm telling you, I felt bad for the Lions. I'll be rooting for the Lions. I think they're going to be pretty good. And to me, I think the Ravens got lucky. Outplayed and lucky.
The Ravens got outplayed and lucky. Marquise Brown on the Ravens had dropped 3 like surefire touchdown passes. So they actually shot themselves in the foot. I think the Lions can make the case that they got lucky.
Yeah. All right. Let's go over to the next game. Titans Colts. This is one of the games that Jimmy highlighted he does not want to talk about. Jimmy, why don't you want to talk about it? Let's hear that.
Tennessee, Indianapolis. Listen, I know in Middlesex County there's such a huge fan base for the Titans and the Colts. Like if you go to a sports bar, you can't even get near the Titans flat screen for the game. Like you can't even order wings over there. Not that I don't care about the game, but this is a game.
That's Jimmy's way of saying, like, I don't know anything about either of these teams. That's why he doesn't.
No, it's nobody. This should be. We're trying to shorten the time we discuss. This should be a shorter one. Like,
I mean, it's fair. Let's just dive into the nitty gritty of it, though.
Yeah, AJ, that was a shitty question because you're giving him a platform to talk more shit about
a game that he doesn't even want to talk about. Very sorry about that. But the main thing that people are talking about is the fact that Carson Wentz looked quite bad yesterday. That Colts defense wasn't really holding up too much either. Chris, do you think that the Colts are doomed this season? Do you think there's no turning back on this one?
Yeah, they're definitely doomed. They can't get out of their own way. They're not doing things well that they're supposed to be doing well. Jonathan Taylor, I think he had one long run in 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not much going on. I agree with Jimmy. This is one of those games where I think if these two teams meet down the line later in the season, it might be a little more interesting. But right now, the Colts, they need to fix a lot of things.
They're also being ravaged by injuries. Quentin Nelson now with the ankle injury, he's going to be out. And their first-round pick, Kwity Paye, he also was hurt pretty badly in that game. So let's not talk much more about it. Depressing stuff for the Indianapolis Colts. The most exciting game of the day. Let's get involved. We got the Chargers winning a nice game over the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. No, wait, I guess in Kansas City, 30-24. Wow, did Justin Herbert look good yesterday? Mike Williams is really coming on this year.
Yeah, Justin Herbert's got the juice. Mike Williams, I got to say, I thought I got him in a auto pick by accident because my internet kicked out, and I was like, I'm about to just drop Mike Williams. Mike Williams has been by far my best receiver on that team so far. So, all you had to do was cut his dreads, and it worked out for him. Mike Williams is legit. Justin Herbert is legit. The Chargers defense, dare I say, is legit. They look good.
Brendan Staley's got those boys like rolling right now.
Asante Samuel Jr., they got arguably the best safety combo in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Really good.
I think you could also say the Chiefs defense stinks. And also,
we're gonna get to the Chiefs too.
Nothing against the Chiefs. My nephew's a big fan. I love, again, this is that Alabama theory. Like, it's, you know what? The Chiefs, I feel like I've won every regular season game for the last 7 years. It seems that way. And it's nice to turn the TV on and like, no, you're not coming back.
Reminds me a lot of the early run the Packers had with Aaron Rodgers, where they only came away with 1 Super Bowl. And it's going to be a shame if you see the Chiefs. Honestly, it might be, I won't say that the time is up on the Chiefs, but they got to fix a lot.
Yep.
They have some tough teams in their division. Denver's playing great ball. The Chargers are obviously playing great ball. The Raiders are now 3-0, which we'll get to in a little bit. The Chiefs, look, there's a
their defense stinks, and they're not, they don't get
there's not
early leads.
As big a margin for error as there used to be in that division.
Doubt.
There's teams that are definitely closing the gap. Big defensive issues, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Andy Reid was rushed to the hospital after the game or something because of a health scare.
He said he's okay though.
Or if they're saying he's okay, but either way, that's still not a great sign.
It's a weird thing. Yep. Hey, listen, being an NFL coach, we kid around and we say he stinks, that stinks. I remember there was a game years ago. Penn State beat somebody like 66-0, and one of the linebackers on Penn State said, I looked across the field and we're just killing these guys, and then I realized that those players put the same hours in. They watch the same film. They work just as hard as we do. They just don't have the talent, you know what I mean? But like, it's not like due to lack of effort. And the NFL, like, there's really no bad teams in the NFL in regard to like those coaches, hours, films, everybody. And, sometimes you make a run and other times you just get beat. And I think the Chargers defense,
playing great. Their first-year head coach had a few hiccups, but he's looking like he's the real deal.
Good.
What do the Chiefs need to do to right the ship right now defensively?
I don't know if there any. First of all,
I don't know that there's really much they can do.
They used to say, because the Chiefs scored too fast and all that stuff. But
that's there. I guess there's that, but they can't really stop the run. They're not really covering people well. I don't think they're getting after the quarterback nearly enough.
You can make the argument the Giant defense is better.
We're gonna see a lot of points scored on the Chiefs. I would say that the only thing that you can really do is bet the over in the Chiefs games at this point because they're all gonna hit.
Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, we'll see. Chiefs have some fixing to do. I don't know that it's clear cut, not just in the AFC, but in the division, because the Raiders, like I said, the Chargers, everybody's coming on strong in that division.
Let's head over to Foxborough, where the Patriots hosted the Saints, and they lost that game 28-13. Mac Jones threw not 1, but 2 pick sixes. Are the Saints getting their rhythm back? What do you guys think about it?
This to me, maybe, I guess I always thought like Belichick was going to roar back this year, but the NFL's weird, man. Like, he's a great coach, but
it's not like they just gifted him a ready-made starting quarterback in the NFL. Like, you got to go out and find these guys, and when you find them at this age, you got to develop them.
It may take 2 or 3 seasons, or so maybe me. Maybe the Patriots stink. They need some time. They lost their start.
They're definitely in a situation where they can't really take the top off of a defense. So the Patriots are going to do well when they're playing from behind. That's just a simple fact. They're going to have to get out to an early lead. They're going to have to run the ball effectively. But yeah, it's going to be hard on them because of the nature of the NFL right now. You're going to need to score points at some times. And when you are a good defense but not great, you become middle of the road. If your offense can't give you any help, you're always on the field. It ends up playing on you a little bit. So
I think we saw a very easy formula to beating the Patriots this week. If you could stop the rush attack, then you have to force them to throw. And I, quite frankly, don't believe in Mac Jones yet to be able to fully, as you were saying, lead them to touchdown drives.
Their offensive line, they're going to go. If their offensive line could win at the point of attack on running downs early in the game, then the Patriots will be in a lot of tight games. But when it comes to them having to close the gap, I just don't see it. You're going to see a lot more of what you saw yesterday. And when you're playing from behind, you throw a pick six.
That being said, that's a big win for the Saints.
Yeah, huge win. And you know what?
It's a big win. They needed to get Jameis back on track, even though Jameis really didn't look all that great.
He didn't look amazing, but I'll tell you what, that Marquez Callaway touchdown was pretty beast.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that for a little bit. The announcer of that game, the guy who was calling the game, was giving Jameis a hard time. But what I think was that he noticed that there was a penalty early, so he threw the ball because he knew it was a free play. They're giving him a hard time about his decision-making. They're like, oh, he's getting sacked. He shouldn't have just threw that up. But if he saw the guy 2 seconds later or 2 seconds earlier get tackled, it's smart because nothing could go wrong.
Everybody wants to discredit my guy Jameis. How about they shut up and let my guy work, huh? Because he's going to be getting W's all season.
To wrap this game up, I think what we got in this one was going into the week. I said a little bit about the Saints are probably not as good as they were against Green Bay, not as bad as they looked against Carolina. And this is the Saints team, right around middle of the pack. They're going to fight for a playoff spot for sure.
Something also that I just want to note before we end this discussion on this. Patriots 0-2 at Foxborough this season. Very interesting because usually they run shit there. So something to keep in mind.
Big win for the Saints. Patriots may have another non.
All right. So this is the game that Jimmy already talked about at length, ad nauseum.
See that? Take a big
The Falcons take out the Giants 17-14 in the Meadowlands, at Giant Stadium. The Giants, it looked like they were in the driver's seat the entire time. And
that was disgusting.
And then, to use Jimmy's words, the Falcons waltzed downfield with their old ass quarterback that doesn't seem to be able to get it done lately, but managed to get it done on Eli Manning Day at the Meadowlands.
This game was just to me, should have been called the Mistake Bowl. The Giants are not that good of a team. Borderline, I'll say they stink, but they made mistakes. Dropped interceptions in the end zone. Penalties inside the 10-yard line, penalties all over the place, critical penalties. And when you're like an 8-8 team or 7-9, whatever, and you make a bunch of mistakes in a game, a really good team can overcome that. Not the Giants. They made pure mistakes right on the field, clear as day, and it cost them the game.
Yeah. On the one bright spot, I know that there really wasn't much good to take away from the Giants' loss yesterday. All the injuries, the defense kind of blowing it down the stretch. But Saquon did look good. Saquon had a little more burst. He finally had a nice rip. He ripped off another long run. He got into the end zone. So Saquon kind of turned it.
I was listening to the game on the radio. Carl Banks was ripping on Saquon he don't think he's running north and south enough, dancing too much.
I mean, but that was the knock on him coming out. So it wasn't like that was some new thing.
He was actually calling it. Actually, he said during the game, man, there's just a running back problem back there. And I was like, oh, that is him saying.
It's even more of a running back problem when you use the second pick overall to draft him.
That's another story.
That's facts. But
that's neither
something that we
need
to mention is the fact that if you think the Giants stink now, well, their schedule is really rough. They go against the Saints next week, followed by Dallas, followed by Los Angeles Rams, followed by the Panthers, followed by the Kansas City Chiefs. My Lord, do you think that Joe Judge survives that stretch?
Yes.
They're not going to fire him.
They're not going to fire him.
If they go 0-4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Time out. In the NFL, you start doing that schedule thing ahead.
Yeah, and also when you start talking about 0-8 firing the coach. At 0-8, I'm almost like, you know what? Let's let him just keep on shit in the bed here. They're not going to hire a guy that they're going to hire for next season, mid-season. So just let Joe Judge be the interim coach.
You know what I was
forward.
thinking? If they had a competent offensive coordinator, he could just step up and be the coach. But Jason Garrett is a mess, so that could never be the case. Let's move on to the next game. We got the Bengals and the Steelers. Bengals get a nice victory over the Steelers, 24-10. And the main story that everybody's talking about is Big Ben looks done.
I tell you what,
looks done. He looks ass.
I consider this the Eli Manning Bowl because it's Big Ben, just like Eli towards the end there. Like it's not every quarterback. Everybody thinks these quarterbacks are all going to be Rodgers and Brady. Big Ben looks to be like, and they don't. He's not as good as he used to be anymore.
Well, no, he's not. It's not that he's not as good. He can't move. He's literally a
neither could
statue.
Eli at the end.
I have a video that I meant to post, but I forgot to because I
also know the video
in the game. You know the one I'm talking about on hurdles?
Yes.
The guy, bro, Big Ben can't get out of his own way. And I don't say that as like a funny thing. Like I mean it. Like he gets in his own way and he falls down for the littlest. It's bad back there. The Steelers have some talent on the offensive side of the ball. They have some deficiencies on the line, but Big Ben can't do anything to hide them. Usually when you got a guy that can at least move a little bit, protection breaks down and you could kind of shake one guy. Big Ben can't get out of his own way, let alone
I think the Steelers,
anybody else's.
As most teams when they switch from their legendary quarterback suck afterwards. I don't feel bad for the Steelers. They're in the never suck category for me, which is rare. They've been good now for the last 30 years. It seems like Tomlin's been there 100 years, but I think this is the beginning of the end.
This is the bet. This is the.
I think Tomlin and Big Ben.
The state of the Steelers right now is worse than it's been in a long time because they shouldn't have brought Ben back. I understand why they did because you kind of want to just give him one last go. The Drew Brees situation last year, but Big Ben wasn't under contract. That's the curious part to me is like they could have gone out there and just done it then, but they gave him. For whatever reason, I understand. Part of me understands it.
It's tough getting rid of a legend, man.
It's tough getting rid of a legend, but when you don't really get rid of the legend and his contract is up, and you could just kind of be like, "Look, we gave you your due. It's time to move on." But the
Steelers don't fire coaches
with the defense, with the way their defense is playing last year. I feel like they came in and were like, "Look, we can still win with Ben. Let's just kind of hope he manages the game," but they're not really factoring in how bad things were going to get.
I don't see the Steelers making the playoffs.
We'd be remiss if we didn't mention the Bengals and everything they did on their side of the ball.
Yeah,
that defense stepped up big time. Von Bell was having a game out there at safety.
Bro, anytime the Bengals could go into Pittsburgh and win a game, that's very rare in the AFC North world. For
passing
sure.
of the torch, man. Joe Burrow. It's
he looked like a beast yesterday. And Jamar Chase, let me tell you, the kid has 4 touchdowns for the first 3 weeks of the season. I'm wishing I drafted that guy.
I think he leads the league in. Well, he definitely leads the league in touchdowns over 30 yards because he's got at least 3. I think where he's over the top, 3 touchdowns, 30 yards or more, as a rookie. So I guess this kind of puts to bed the notion that if you sit out a season in college football, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah,
because Jamar Chase sat out and he comes in rookie. It does help when you have your old college quarterback throwing you the ball. But
fantasy tidbit to note, Najee Harris, 17 targets yesterday.
17 targets.
My actual Christ. And that's because Juju Smith-Schuster went out on the field. He has a rib injury. And Chase Claypool, I think, hurt his ankle at the end of that game. So it was all him. Let's go over to the Cardinals and Jaguars. We're just going to touch on this briefly. Trevor Lawrence does not look good. I do not care what anybody says. 2 fumbles lost, a pick. It's ugly. It's really ugly over there in Jacksonville, and I don't think Urban Meyer has a goddamn clue what he's doing. What do you think?
I have a lot to say on this game. What I have to say
was on your do not talk about list.
I have a lot to say about this game. What I have to say is the Knicks open up camp.
I'll talk very briefly about this game.
Yes, you will.
Because I think that the story here is the Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are actually potentially a legit team. I think they botched a couple things, particularly the play before half where they kicked a 68-yard field goal for no reason and let the Jaguars run it back 109 yards for a touchdown.
That was moronic.
The one thing that we were blessed by in this game was a beautiful call by Gus Johnson, the GOAT of all play-by-play guys.
I know.
Right now.
He's a legend.
So Gus Johnson was literally built to call big Jaguars touchdowns because the other one that he did was a Hail Mary back in the day. So
David Gerard.
Yes, correct. David Gerard. So did David Gerard go to Rutgers? Is he a New Jersey guy though? I think he is.
I feel like he is.
I think he
I
is.
feel like I
but
met David Gerard when I was younger, but I don't know.
anyway, shout out to New Jersey's finest, David Gerard.
He's
But
a
yeah,
trooper.
the Cardinals are legit. This is a game where people thought that they might have had a chance. The Jaguars did come out second and third quarter, and they actually built a little bit of a lead. It didn't last long, and the Jaguars blew that one. Urban Meyer, get used to it. It's going to be that way for a little bit.
Alabama
I won't go
every
as far
week.
as to say Trevor Lawrence's ass because he's only played 3 downs for a terrible Jaguars team, or 3 games. So moving on.
Speaking of ass, Zach Wilson, ass. I have no other words to say about this kid. I mean, watching that game yesterday, it was a misery. We cannot get anything going on offense whatsoever. The running game was trying to do all it can, but it simply cannot carry this offense. We cannot just run for, 4 yards on the first 2 downs. We try and do it on the 3rd down. We get stuffed every single time. Jets offense looks one-dimensional. They look horrible.
Jets stink.
And the defense didn't even show up yesterday.
This is the week of stink. Like Jets stink.
Jets stink.
Yeah.
Giants stink. Steelers stink. Patriots stink.
To wrap this
is
one
the
up,
week of stink.
we'll talk about the Broncos. We'll just say it real quick. Are we buying in on the Broncos right now?
I've been buying in on the Broncos since before the season. I believe in Teddy B. I believe in Javonte Williams. I believe in the weapons they have on the outside. And I believe in that defense, that secondary, that front 7. They are legit. They're going to be in the playoffs this year. I'm telling you.
Jimmy, you buying?
I thought Denver looked good against the Giants, but then I was thinking, well, the Giants
Now
stink.
that's
I
where
don't
we're
know.
going with it.
Now
Yeah.
it's like, oh, maybe they're not so bad. But listen, we're at the point in the season now, right around now, where you start to really see who stinks.
Who did Denver
really
play week?
see who
Who
may
did
be
Denver
playing
play
well.
week 2?
Denver played the Jaguars week 2.
So now we're talking about Denver being the real deal. They're 3-0. You want to do these to the teams, but they beat the Giants, the Jets, and the Jaguars. So the teams that they've beaten are combined 0-9.
But they've beaten the crap out of all those teams, which is the one thing I do want to say. It's not like they're playing these close games.
Which is why I raised the question: Are they legit? I believe that they're legit enough. I think that they're going to contend because they are going to play smart football. The way that they're built is play defense and run the ball. So as things get colder and things kind of tighten up, they kind of are built for a nice run. I believe so. But the reason why I'm not really sold on them is because I do think that going into the season, we thought the AFC West was going to be an easy division. It's not such an easy division. The Raiders are good. The Chargers are good. And obviously the Chiefs, they're going to be fighting. So 1 and 2 Chiefs got some ground to pick up on.
This was a fantastic game. The Las Vegas Raiders hosted the Miami Dolphins and were able to come away with a thriller in overtime. Daniel Carlson gets another game-winning field goal, and the Raiders are 3-0. This is the amount of wins I had them winning all season. I'm shocked, and I'm able to raise my hand and be a man. I was wrong. I was dead wrong about Derek Carr. That kid has heart. He's balling out there every single game. And honestly, what Chris brought up, which was a great point, is they just match up against teams well. They have so many different players that do such different things. Ruggs, such a deep threat over the top. You got Brian Edwards, who's a big body, big possession receiver who balls out every single play, puts his heart into every play. And then Darren Waller, the 6'7" tight end who runs like a receiver. They have threats all over the field, and they showed that yesterday. Now, did their defense look a little suspect, even against a Jacoby Brisket? Yeah, but if you remember the beginning of that game, that pick 6 didn't really help things either, and the field position they were giving up earlier in the game due to turnovers was pretty poor. Chris, Raiders, they legit? They legit, bro?
I do think that the Raiders are at least as legit as we said that you said that Broncos were. I think the Raiders are a better team than the Broncos in terms of a complete team. I think that because of the quarterback, I think Derek Carr is legit.
Okay.
But again, the Raiders, I think Pittsburgh's not as great as everybody thought they were. The Ravens win is a legit win. Yesterday, to your point, they really didn't do anything. The Dolphins didn't do anything against the Raiders defensively until the 4th quarter because the 14 points that they had early was a pick 6, and then the Raiders went for it. Unbelievable bad call by Gruden, I think, going for it. Backed against his corner. I think he was on the 25, 30
he was on 34.
35-yard line going for it. Really no reason to go for it right there. But the Raiders defense did do what they had to do yesterday until late in the game, and they kind of blew things up. But 3-0 is 3-0. They've beaten better teams than Denver is beaten. For the same reason why I wouldn't say I'm sold on them is why I'm not sold on Denver. There's some tough teams in the AFC, particularly in that division. So, but 3 wins against conference teams that all had 10 or more wins last year. Going into this season, you're looking at the Raiders' schedule. You did not have them going 3-0 to start.
No, nobody did.
Not one person, not even a Raider fan. So I think they might be the first team ever to start a season 3-0 against 3 teams that have had 10 wins. So that right there means that they're legit.
Yeah, no, and I definitely agree with that. And more so, something I want to talk about is the Dolphins. Although they didn't have Tua yesterday, they fought pretty hard, and that team always fights. Now, do you think that they have a shot in terms of this AFC East race whatsoever, or you think that's just such the Bills?
No, there's not enough there's not enough firepower in the AFC East other than Buffalo. All 3 of those teams are going to struggle to score points, meaning the Jets, the Dolphins. Who else?
Jets, Dolphins,
Patriots.
Yeah.
They're all going to struggle to score points. There's not really a formidable quarterback on any of those teams. There's no real receiving threats. So the Bills are going to completely run away with that division.
Another thing, just a fantasy tidbit, Mike Gesicki was feasting on targets yesterday. As long as Jacoby Brissett is in this offense, I love Mike Gesicki as a tight end 1 for your fantasy squads. Let's move over to one of the most exciting games of the day, the Rams versus the Buccaneers. Really highly prized matchup, and the Rams were able to come away with the upset at home. Matt Stafford.
When you say exciting, you mean like there was anticipation for the game, but the game itself was.
Oh, yeah. No. I'm talking about the anticipation.
From what I saw, the Buccaneers were losing the whole time.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, first of all, the reason why the game was exciting was because Tom Brady got beat. That made it. That was the lure of the game. But then you look up his stats and you're like Tom Brady's not going back to his home and being like, well, he got through for like 450 yards.
Yeah, well, when you're down late,
I know, but like
it changes the game script. It's a lot of bullshit.
Just ask Dak.
Listen, I know that. Listen, I'm an Eli Manning on the Giants had like 700 of games like this, but it's just, you know what I think it is? I think it's newsworthy when Brady gets beat. Simple as that.
All right, fair.
Well, hopefully they get beat some more because I need that 1 seed. But the Rams, I said this going into the game. I'm not sure who I want to win because I don't know who I'm going to need to have won when it's like week 16 and be like, who are we going up against here? So I kind of watched that when I was like, I'm never going to root for Tom Brady, but I wouldn't mind if the Bucs won because I think the Rams are going to be better down the stretch.
Last game before we get into the Monday Night Football preview, we have the Seahawks versus the Vikings. It was a shocker, folks, as the Seahawks kind of got their butts beat by the Vikings on the road. Seahawks were favored by 2 points, and I was not happy with the results. Scooch, were you happy with these results?
No, because I'll never actually root for Minnesota in a game, but I didn't have any
I bet a pretty penny on the Seahawks.
Yeah, I didn't bet. I only bet one game yesterday.
And that was the Packers?
Yeah, and it wasn't even a straight bet. It was weird. I had a free bet, so I just put it in and it hit.
Very, very smart guy. Do you have any talking points about this game, or you just
I think it goes to me, this goes under both stink.
Yeah, well, Seattle's defense is
they do both stink.
Is as advertised. Their defense can't tackle anybody. Madison went off in place of Dalvin Cook yesterday. No Dalvin Cook, no problem for Minnesota. I feel like that'll be a theme because they're not really – it's not a big downgrade. I actually thought Dalvin Cook played when I was looking at him because I couldn't see the number. Yeah. They look exactly alike on the field. Madison is the real deal.
All I know is that if I'm seeing some more low receiving props for Mr. Alexander Madison, I will be heading over to BetMGM and placing some props. If you want to get signed up with BetMGM and have your first bet risk-free, make sure to head over to chopsportsmedia.com and hit the banner on our website. Jamie Foxx will be there with a smiling face greeting you saying, come on, take a chance, make a bet. Win your first bet today at betmgm.com and you will be a happy man.
And I'm going to say this, my father figured it out. So if my father could figure it out,
I didn't sign up.
If he could sit there and he could click on a banner and do it all by himself and put his bank account in and all that, then you guys could do the same.
Yes. And one thing I want to say is,
no, I can do that, but I just want to make sure that the studio gets credit for it.
We're giving our picks today for the game. And you guys know how we are with our picks. We're not very good. So if you want to get some winnings,
I'm actually curious to know how I did because I don't even know who I was. It's funny because I'm watching the games yesterday, and because I faded myself on every pick last week, I'm like, wait, I'm not sure. Did I actually like them?
By the way, that was very funny on your show Friday.
Yeah, I had to.
I think this sticks, so I'm going to go with them.
That's how you got to do it. That's how you bet.
To break it up. You won't do that every week.
No. what's going to happen this week is I'm going to do bad again, going against my picks. So it's like now if I would have just picked straight
Eventually,
up,
you're gonna have to just say what you feel about the game.
well, you know what I'm really doing? This is like because I picked so bad, I'm giving myself an out.
Well,
So if I pick really bad in the end of the year, I'm under 500. I'd be like, well, I didn't even really pick my picks.
I look at it as more like picking the lineup out of the hat.
Yeah.
It's like we're not winning. Everything's going over here. Put everybody's name in. Of course, Stan.
But I'll talk
to
to Dave about this when he comes on about the picks, because I was thinking about something that he said and I was like, I'm not letting that happen when we were picking on Friday. So when Dave comes on, me and him could talk.
All right, well, we're about to head into the Dallas Cowboys preview. But first, we're going to go to our partners, Absolute Eyewear, and see what Janine and company has to say.
You know, myself and Gooch are both getting a little older. One of the first things to go is your vision. Thank goodness for our hookup over at Absolute Eyewear in Woodbridge, New Jersey, right on Main Street next to the train station. They have glasses for all ages, all budgets. They have safety glasses, sports glasses. They are a full-service powerhouse offering eye exams and even free lenses for the kids. They work with BCBS, AAA, AARP, giving massive discounts. They're open 5 days a week, closed on Wednesdays and Sundays. Call 732-326-3937 to get your first pair of Ray-Ban, Burberry, Coach, Polo, you name it, they got it. Go see Craig and Janine right now.
Joke, Jimmy.
Oh, there he is.
Oh,
Are we going to hear Dave?
There he is.
we got Dave here.
But we can't hear him.
You're going to need to put headphones on.
How would that be? It's over there.
You can't.
So we should take
Oh, they had to go.
Dave. We don't know if we could add you.
Maybe I can.
No, because
You're talking about it. You don't hear me?
I got my AirPods, but I'll be the only one that can hear him.
All right. Well, then you do the interview with Dave. Hi, Dave.
Is that how we want
They
to
could
do?
all hear him. But
You can't hear me?
So this is being live streamed right now. This
Oh,
band.
yeah.
This banter is being live streamed, but we're figuring it out.
All right. Well, until you get set up, I'll talk for a second.
Okay.
God
Well,
forbid.
what do you think about the game tonight? I'm thinking that there's a little bit of an edge here with the Philadelphia Eagles.
I think the Eagles are going to win, and Dave's going to be aggravated at that. I know he's smiling already. I think the Eagles are going to win. NFC East is so bad. One of these teams is going to drop into the stink factor. It's either going to be the Eagles or the Cowboys. I think the Eagles are going to win because it seems like the Cowboys are going to win. So I'm going to go against the grain, a la Chris, and say that Eagles either win or it'll be a close game. I'll leave it.
You are absolutely
That's the
hot.
prediction. Now, what is it? The over/under set for this game is at 52. Are you seeing this as a high-scoring game or as a low-scoring affair?
Under.
You think the defenses are going to shine tonight, even with the Cowboys' defense struggling as it has?
I think it's going to be the under. I don't think it's going to be a barn burner. No.
so what we're going to do here for Dave is we're just going to literally let him talk about his preview.
Okay.
Right. And
And
then
then you'll edit that in.
and then we'll edit it in. No, he could talk. We're not going to hear it. He's going to, they're going to hear
Okay.
it though.
Well, this is good.
This
Excellent.
is good. We're figuring things out on the fly.
Dave
here.
with a bright smile on his face.
All right, Dave, whenever you're ready to talk shit
Wow.
about the Eagles, because that's pretty much what you're going to do, feel free.
Listen. Here's the deal. I know you guys are doing your thing and you can't hear me from over there, but everybody else watching the show can hear me, which is awesome. I am coming live from Dallas. I am coming with a new liver, hopefully home on the plane tomorrow night. But I will say this. You know what? I'm trying to think to myself, maybe you have to turn up the wire in. But anyway, Dallas Cowboys coming in today. There's a lot of pageantry and stuff. So, like, you have Jimmy Johnson, you have Drew Pearson, you have Cliff Harris all going into the Ring of Honor and getting their rings. I'm excited, man. This game looks like it's going to be it looks like they're going to be legitimately stacked on offense. I'm still kind of questioning the defense. We'll see, what they can pull out tonight. But yeah, man, Dallas is awesome out here, bro. I'm having a really good time, and I trying to rely on you guys to hold down the fort, and I know you can. And you're doing a great job, and I know you guys are picking this game. The Cowboys favored by 4. It's always nice to have a home field advantage, but I will say, I got the Cowboys winning this game. And I don't see why they can't win this game. A lot of high energy, and I'm just excited about it. So I know you guys can't hear me, but I'm gonna do one of these and go ahead. Like,
We actually can hear you now.
oh
We just
yeah.
didn't want to tell you. You can't hear you though.
Who can I hear, or who can't hear
Jimmy,
me?
you can't hear Jimmy, but you could hear everybody else.
Okay. Why
I'm
can't I hear
just
Jimmy?
Yeah.
Do
So
you really want me to explain it?
Not really.
Yeah.
no, yeah, let's not explain it, but let's talk about some of the key matchups for tonight. I think that one of the ones that is going to be seen all night is Zeke and Tony Pollard against that Eagles front seven. The front seven for the Eagles has been phenomenal against the rush so far this season. We saw what they did against Elijah Mitchell and the 49ers running backs in game 2. And in game 1, I'll tell you what, Mike Davis had no running lanes whatsoever for Atlanta in that one. So can the Eagles stop Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard today? That's the question I have for you, Dave.
I think that they definitely pose a good defensive front. They are down Graham for the rest of the year, so that kind of stinks on their behalf. They're banged up on offense as well. Their offensive line's kind of torched up, and our defensive line's got a bunch of COVID guys. So it's a very equal match tonight. But yeah, as far as Zeke and Pollard, we've seen it last week where they can kind of do different things, like a couple splash plays here and there. So if Zeke gets stacked up with the box being heavy, good thing we have those two receivers on the outsides and CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. And I think that Dak Prescott's done a really good job, coming to the line, recognizing what the deal is, and then changing the play as needed. But if the running game, they're going to try to pound the rock at first, but much like that Tampa game, if they feel like the success won't be there and they can start airing it out, I think they'll do that.
Okay, fair. I was looking at some of the player props.
Dave, you picked the Eagles, right?
I was looking at some of the player props, and one of the ones that I am all over today is Miles Sanders receiving yards. That's set at 20.5. What do you think about that, Dave? Because if we've talked about it before, we talked about how the fact that Austin Eckler was feasting upon the Cowboys last week in game 2. And if you went ahead and you look at week 1, Leonard Fournette had 7 targets in that one and was able to do whatever he wanted in the receiving game. Does Miles Sanders have similar success tonight?
Yeah, probably. Because, the problem is that Dallas Cowboys are injury riddled or COVID riddled and have all sorts of riddled on the defensive line. So Micah Parsons might play the defensive line again for the majority. And if that's the case, then we're going to have to rely on LVE, Leighton Vander Esch, and Jalen Smith to cover Miles Sanders out of the backfield. And I just don't like that matchup at all. So 20.5 seems like you could probably get that on one play, to be honest with you. They dump it out of the backfield. He just takes it for 20. You win your prop bet. So that's probably a sure thing, actually.
Okay, fair, Chris. Chris and Jimmy, let's hear more so about what you have to say. Jimmy, you kind of gave all of your opinion in the beginning portion of this show, but Mr. Chris, me and you were talking about this one earlier. We both think that the Eagles have a fair shot in this game with the weapons they possess on the defensive side. Does that Eagles offense show up today is the real question. Does the Jalen Hurts from the first game show up, or does Jalen Hurts from game 2 show up? What do you think, Chris?
For my sake, I hope he does show up. I need a lot of offense in this game across the board for my own personal reasons. But if there is a defense for Jalen Hurts to right the ship, it's the Dallas defense, because obviously everybody that listens to the show knows my thoughts on their secondary. They're banged up on the defensive line. They did play well last week. Like, if we're talking about results, last week I thought the Chargers were going to beat up on Dallas, and Dallas's defense showed up. They played well. So it could be one of those situations where they were excited, they geeked up for the game. But this is Philly. So if there's another game that you need to be geeked up for, it's the division game on a Monday night. I do think Jalen Hurts is going to find success running the ball because that's what his bread and butter is. I got to see a little bit more out of the receiving core. Jalen Reagor and Devontae Smith, both too young for me to really anoint them as anything, but they're both exciting splash type of guys. So you might see some big plays out of them.
To me, the key is the Dallas wide receivers. They look like to be fast and pretty good. I think Elliott will be a non-factor in the game. I don't think it's running back position in the NFL. There's plenty of running backs that are worse than him or better than him. I think it's Dak and those wide receivers for big plays, because those guys. I think
that's a given, though. I don't think anybody has any questions.
A couple times Dak missed a few guys and they were wide open.
Fair. I'm just saying, like, as a whole, you're right. It's about the Dallas Cowboys receivers. Like, Dak and the receivers are going to make that team tick.
Wide open a lot.
But we were talking about Zeke might not be a factor, but the other running back definitely will be.
Yeah,
Pollard is legit. He has a little bit more burst than Zeke. I don't want to say that he's a better player.
I think it's going to be a Dak show. That's what I'm really saying.
Dave, I don't think we could hear Dave again.
What?
Right? Or can we?
All right. Well, in any event, I think that you're going to have to worry about the tight ends too. The Eagles historically, just like the Giants, can't really cover a tight end. So they got Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz over there. So, you talk about the receivers, that's great, but they're going to find some juicy matchups over the middle with their tight ends just kind of chilling there.
All right. Are you thinking a little bit of a Dalton Schultz TD parlay? Anytime TD? What do you think about that?
I like that, actually. I like that a lot. I like that better than Blake Jarwin, to be honest with you. That might be a nice little play. I think that
I think it's higher than plus 300 odds as well, which really helps it. But let's get ahead to the end of the show right here. It's all about the picks. We're talking about the picks, baby. But I want to obviously start with Mr. Dave, Mr. Cowboy himself. Let's get the pick from you. We all know what it is. Let's hear it.
I think there, on my other podcast and everybody I talk to in the media with the Cowboys media is that this game will be kind of like really tight. I can foresee the Eagles getting off to a hot start and making me like tear my hair out while I'm at the stadium. But I think Dak, and he's a very composed and cool dude, even under pressure. And I think that the Cowboys pull away towards the end. I got the Cowboys winning 34-20, so a 14-point win for the Cowboys tonight.
Okay, interesting. Jimbo, let's hear your pick.
I'm going to pick the Eagles. But I think it'll rest on Prescott and the receivers. I think that's their biggest danger. These other tight ends you're talking about, I think they're all run of the mill. It's those two receivers open up everything because you got to watch them for the deep ball, and Prescott can get it to him. So I think it's really how Dak and the receivers. But what's the over and under how many times Dave will pick the Cowboys to lose in 17 games?
I'm gonna say 3.
The over under it was half, and
I got him at 11. And hey, Jimmy, I got him at 11-6, man, to finish the year. So they got to lose 6 times. I'm gonna have to eventually pick the.
Yeah, but they're gonna cover.
You ain't gonna pick them week by week. You're gonna pick them to win.
I'm like Michael Irvin on the NFL Network. They can't go to him and be like, "Well, I think they're going to lose today," and I'm like, "No, it's not gonna happen."
That's great. That's great. I don't know. I also think the Eagles might stink too. So I don't know.
So what are you going with? You're going.
I'm
with
going to say
Philly.
Eagles.
You're going with Philly. I'm going to pick Dallas because I think that there's too much on offense. I put all my eggs in the Philly basket last week, and I literally paid for it. So I'm not going to go with Philly 2 weeks in a row. Fool me once, shame on me.
You.
I always say that wrong. Fool me twice, shame on me again. So moving on. AJ, who do you got?
That was an electric quote. Thank you, Chris. But
it was long, but
I know that's why I said that. I think that the Eagles are going to win this bowl game. The front seven, as I said before, is going to feast in this one, and I think that if you look at the red zone efficiency on the two different teams, it's a nice matchup for the Eagles. The Cowboys, they get tons of yards, they get all the things they need to, but they're not getting the touchdowns that I would like to see from them. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go with the Eagles. I think that the Eagles offense shows a little burst in this game, and I think that Jalen Reagor has a huge game tonight.
All right.
Killing me, Smalls.
I think that's about it for the show, right? Jimmy, you got anything
we're
else?
Not gonna talk about, we're not going to talk about how Rutgers should have beaten Michigan.
Well, I felt like we would leave that for your show, but you want to talk about the Rutgers?
Rutgers, they played well, but they lost.
Rutgers did play well.
They played well. They got beat. I actually think the Michigan quarterback
This
stinks.
is one of those things where we can give moral victories out. In college football, moral victories are a little bit different.
You know me, that you are what your record says you are. So I can
there are no moral victories in the NFL, but in college football, when you could get a little recruiting because of it, yes,
in front of 100,000 people. Rutgers actually the second half. The Rutgers front line dominated.
Dave, will there be any moral victories tonight?
No, not in Philly. Philly is not Tampa Bay.
I cut Jimmy off talking about this.
No, that's all
Rutgers. Right. But Rutgers covered. We thought Rutgers would cover. Myself and Dave. Jimmy wasn't on the Rutgers covering bandwagon.
No, I thought they were.
Hey, listen, I thought
that way in the beginning, but then I actually was at a wedding, so we're watching on our phones, and I taped the game. I watched it yesterday, and I was like, Rutgers receivers were open. There was no. If you didn't know if they were both wearing white uniforms, you would have said, "Oh, that Rutgers team is way better than Michigan." The line of scrimmage was blowing out holes, 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s, first down Rutgers, and we made Michigan punt like 7-8 times in a row. So either Michigan stinks or we're better. You can make the big game. Ohio State this week. See how well they'll do. Another big.
Yeah, maybe Chop Sports will make an appearance at the Rutgers Ohio State game. I know Jimmy will be. You might be there. If you're there, maybe we'll be there.
It looks like I'm going to be there.
You know what?
Listen, Dave. I can't really hear you, but I'll just say have a good time in Dallas. Have a couple beers on me, And I know that's a cool stadium. I'm actually dying to go to that stadium. And we'll see you next week, bud.
I
All
appreciate
right,
it,
Dave.
man.
We'll see you Wednesday, right? See Dave
Yes,
in 2
sir.
days. So
Yeah,
yeah,
2 days.
Dave, have a good one, bud. Enjoy the game. Jimmy, mute your computer. And if you want to hear more of Jimmy, go check him out, shopsportsmedia.com. And listen to the Jimmy Palumbo Show, which airs every single Tuesday. And Do You Remember That Guy, which will be airing every single Friday. We got a ton more podcasts. We got the Joe Matarese is now back in action with the Pretender to Contender on Tuesdays. The Chopheads MMA new release date on Tuesday. We'll be talking about the Nick Diaz, I guess you could say fight, but it really wasn't much of a fight. But the Ortega-Volkanovski fight was great, so we'll break that down for you. We have the Mets. I guess the Mets season is wrapping up soon, so we'll get to hear the thoughts on Ibby and John Sapanaro, what they got to say about Till Mets Do Us Part. Jets podcast, I don't know what they're going to talk about. There's really not much going on great in Jets land, but go over to shopsportsmedia.com, buy some merch, support the NIL kids, download all the podcasts. Check us out Monday through Friday on YouTube, Facebook Live, all that. That's all we got. AJ, hit the button.
Alrighty, boys. Have a good one. Wait, are you saying end the broadcast?
End it, bruv.
You didn't
What?
even do a cold close, you bastard.
Well, we got plenty of time on the button.
This is like watching a tree.
We don't
grow.
have our, you know what happens? It's like watching Big Ben try and get out of the pocket.
This,
That's
you know
just-
what? This is like me being stuck in
I'm
a room.
gonna keep this going.
No,
forever.
you know what?
It's like-
you know what the
it's-
end of the show is like me being stuck in a room and only being able to watch Cowboy games for the rest of my life. That's what
But usually what happens is AJ's sitting over there. So like the end of the show is very weird. I don't know if Dave could be hurt or not. Like I'm looking at him. I got all these facial expressions, which is
I'm just
basically
gonna-
all you really need with Dave.
I just googled
'cause
the
he's
word.
such an
I
emotional
just
guy.
googled the word preparation, and I don't see Chop Sports coming up anyway.
But,
Columbo getting involved.
So this was a long,
Yeah.
soft close. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed Aaron Rodgers.
That was a big game. See, Chris